Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today, I want to present to you my Crucible League starter, and it's going to be the Rage Vortex Berserker. Yes, you heard right. It's going to be a melee character. Imagine, melee in 2023. But yeah, main reasons for this kind of decisions is like the revamp of the masteries. So there is like a bunch of cool new masteries in there, as well as obviously the new weapon skill trees coming from Crucible. And you know how they say, like, the first thing that comes into your mind is always like a good thing to do, and the first thing that popped up for me was Voidforge. And the way I was thinking was like, bro, you know, Voidforge scales off flat physical damage, and they actually buffed it quite tremendously in 320. I'm giving it, like, instead of 300% Physis extra as element, you get 700. We lost a little bit of physical damage, but it's still fine, because 700%, if you can get sources of flat physical damage on other parts of the game, then this is gonna be omega huge in that case, right? And we saw a bunch of like trailer thingies where the first weapons had like flat physical damage, some percent physical damage and stuff like that. And I was thinking, dude, if you get a Void Forge with a nice Crucible tree, which is possible if you do like these kind of like Uber Crucible Forges and stuff like that, this might turn out pretty freaking insane. Maybe even to get a lot more tanky, because we're gonna have like damage for days. I know what you're thinking. You're like, okay, bro, League starting Void Forge, why don't you just start an Aura Stacker instead with Mage Blood on first week or something like that, right? Well, honestly, I don't think that Void Forge is gonna be in too high demand early on in the league, and the build works without a Void Forge as well, so I don't see any problems right there. I think Sword's gonna be like 4 or 5 Divines after a couple of days, maybe not the first one that pops up, it's probably gonna be like 500 Divines or whatever people come up with prices early on, right? But it's definitely going to be one of these uniques or endgame uniques that are affordable. It's not a Mage Blood, it's not a Headhunter, it's still a Void Forge, only tailored towards a very few builds. And most people don't play melee these days anyway, so I think it's just some green lights for me. I think this is definitely achievable in the first week of the league. But yeah, like Crucible trees might be freaking interesting. And one build that I really like is like Rage Vortex. So there has been a lot of like Berserk builds that I enjoyed, namely, for example, Earthshatter. But Earthshatter has like this kind of a bit bad taste. I mean, it's kind of like a very interactive gameplay, since you're like kind of juggling all your war cries at any given time, you know. But Rage Vortex only needs like one war cry, kind of, which is going to be the intimidating cry to deal double damage. I'm just gonna let my old video like pass through, because not too much will change. And the thing is, like, when I recorded this video, it was like the way to Awakener 8. So currently the map is Awakener 7, so it's still like kind of pretty early in the league. So this is something I can definitely kind of expect to have at some point, right? So talking about Rage Vortex itself. So basically, skill is like this massive freaking spinning weapon, which damage is based on how much rage you're sacrificing, right? But one very interesting fact about this skill is it kind of snapshots once you release the Rage Vortex. That means that also, like, not only does the intimidating cry, the double damage from it, will last for the entire duration of Rage Vortex, but also, for example, the Ascendancy node from Berserk, which is, I think it was Warbringer or something, yeah. Exerted attacks deal 50% more attack damage if a Warcry sacrificed Rage recently. So you can snapshot this, and I'm wondering, with these new things that we've got over here, for example, gain adrenaline for 1 second when you change your stance. So this is like a new thing, and I think personally it might be really strong, but I'm like highly questioning, like, are you really gonna press your stance every like 1 point something seconds based on your CDR? I personally don't think that's going to be a thing, since problem here is you cannot use Blood and Sand on your left click, or at least you can, but it doesn't work like Molten Shell or something like that, where you just hold down your button and every time it's off cooldown it will actually cast it, right? So you basically would need to like click move, which like honestly nobody freaking does. But I think If you just put it on your W, and then you just like once in a while press it, just get this like buff, right? But if it's able to snapshot into the Rage Vortex, omega damage, right? Really omega damage. And I'm really looking forward to these kind of things. And we have another like bunch of tools and a bunch of like new masteries that might come in very handy with all of that. But instead of like talking with like this kind of like end game PUB that I made, because I just personally I simply cannot like, I think League Start POBs are just freaking pointless for me. All I need is like a kind of a direction on how my skill tree should look like, and that's pretty much it, because the rest will be based on how much currency I make and what items will I be able to afford early on. And obviously, Rage Vortex, for being a level 28 skill, will not be accessible directly on the start, so that's why I'm most likely just gonna be leveling as I don't know, probably in the start, like Ground Slam or something like that, level 12, maybe Sunder. And then once we hit level 28 is when we can get Rage Vortex. But you cannot really play Rage Vortex, because in order to play it, you need Rage. And what do you not have early on? Exactly, Rage. So there are things that you could gain Rage with, like a Rage support and stuff like that. But honestly, is this a reliable source to actually play Rage Vortex like 100%? Nope, you are not. Because you still, if you don't have a certain amount of rage, then it will not release this like rage storm, and with a minimum amount of rage, it's just not gonna deal a lot of damage anyways, right? So there, you have to take like one of these like key uniques to make this kind of build work. But another skill that you can use with level 28 is Blade Storm, which is also like working perfectly fine with Blood and Sand because of the Stance Dancing with Adrenaline buff that you can just alternate between sand stance and blood stance for mapping, and or at least like killing monsters and boss and whatnot. And while you're playing with a Blade Storm, you're gonna generate your rage over time to just one-shot packs or campaign bosses and whatnot with your Rage Vortex. So that means that I'm most likely, as I said, going to be campaigning with a Blade Storm and a combination of Rage Vortex. But once we're hitting level, or at least the first lab, we're going to go into Warbringer, and the first unique that I want to get is the Red Blade Banner. This is something I just need for making it viable to play Rage Vortex alone without Blade Storm, because we need a good form of rage generation. And what Red Blade Banner does is that your war cries have infinite power, and this one paired with the Warbringer node says war cries grant 10 rage per 5 power if you have less than 25 rage, but since we have infinite power, if we have less than 25 rage and we war cry once, we instantly gonna get to full rage, and then we can just release this massive Rage Vortex. We're gonna degen rage over time as well with like Berserker and stuff. As soon as we get below this 25 rage, we instantly gonna be full again, right? So we need the Red Blade Banner to actually make Rage Vortex as our main skill, and then we don't have to rely on a Blade Storm either way. So this is the first thing that I want to get. I don't think this is gonna be expensive. I would assume somewhere like 5 to 10 chaos in the start, and then it's probably going to rapidly drop, because there are a bunch of builds, or some people that play with like Berserk, General's Cry, and I don't know, like all these kind of like Berserk builds are most likely going to use the Red Blade Banner. I don't think there's going to be a lot of those, but still the first couple shields that will be active, since it is level requirement level 35, might be that it's like a 10 chaos item in the start, but I don't think that's going to be hard to afford. Maybe not direct in level 35, but you know, the first couple chaos that you're gonna find, you're just gonna stack them up, and then this will be my first purchase. So until this point, it's just gonna be like Blade Storm, and until we get the Red Blade Banner, and then we're gonna swap into a pure Rage Vortex build, right? Until to the point where we can afford the Chaos Spirit Gloves. This is gonna be the main source of rage that I want to build around. So Rage Vortex needs rage to function, and when I played it back in the days, this was still with the Red Blade Banner, and this is like the kind of like bitter taste that you always have to rely on war crying to actually gain your massive amounts of like damage out of it. So the problem is, if you have, let's say your rage is dropping based on like classic degen, or because you're just like, you know, just release the Rage Vortex and stuff like that, and then the boss gets actually active or you need the damage. But what if you have more than 25 Rage? It just will empower your next exerted attack by, since you're sacrificing 10 Rage if you have more than 25 Rage. So instead of giving you full Rage to instantly go with the Rage Vortex, you have to like War Cry or trying to spend your Rage to get below 25, then War Cry and then release your Rage Vortex to actually have like some sick damage. And it was kind of like, felt like for me, a bit of an awkward playstyle when I played it the first time. But outside of that, it was just freaking amazing build, right? But with the Chaos Spirit gloves, this gets kind of like, then we don't have to use the Red Blade banner anymore. This will definitely be the more accessible early league item because the Chaos Spirit gloves will be level 69. And I personally have no idea how much these are going to go for. Might be like a 10 Chaos item, might be a 1 or 2 Divines item, or even more. I have no idea. It's the first time I'm going to try playing with these, but this is definitely the route that I want to go instead, right? So first of all, Red Blade banner, make Rage Vortex playable, and then later on, based on the price, we're going to swap out to Chaos Spirit. So what Chaos Spirit does is you regenerate 1 rage per second for every 100 life recovery, which means we have to opt into a bunch of life regeneration rate to actually gain all the rage that we need. But therefore, we don't have to like War Cry all the time to rely on the Red Blade banner to actually give us rage, right? So we're gonna have like a lot of rage at any given point, even if we're like using our Rage Vortex. You let this thing like circle around, and in the meantime this thing is circling, right? Your rage is gonna fill up again for the next one, right? We're gonna use Berserk obviously, but on like end game kind of gear, you're gonna have quite a massive amount of regen stacked with like vitality and some life regeneration on your gear that you're probably gonna end up having like, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 rage per second. So it shouldn't be any problem to maintain a very long uptime on Berserk, as well as having enough rage to actually release like massive rage vortexes. There are a couple other items that are interesting for this build. For example, the Beer's Girdle, which is a belt that gives you physical damage per 10 rage, as well as plus 20 to maximum rage. And with the Atlas, like with the skill tree, we can heal like another 10 maximum rage, and I think 10 maximum rage on your, what is it? Rite of Ruin? No, wait, the first, Crave the Slaughter. So you get like a plus 40 maximum rage out of your skill tree and gearing, which gets you up to like 90 maximum rage. So you can sacrifice up to 22 if you have the Helm enchant with a 5% additional rage, and this is gonna be like massive amount of damage. And maybe on this like Crucible skill tree, we're gonna have something like 2 maximum rage. That would be even crazier, right? But it's like stuff that we're gonna figure out as soon as we play the league. But there is like a lot of like things. Is this necessary? It's probably gonna be your best in slot belt. Is it gonna be expensive? I don't think so. Like only Rage Vortex builds, I think, and maybe like 1 or 2 other builds would actually use that belt. I think, I don't know if I ever dropped this one. I don't even know where it actually drops. RC Mother of Thorns. So it's that Harvest, I think. Yeah. Anyways. Is this like, as I said, is this like your best in slot belt? Yes, it is. But is it, do you have to have it to actually play the build? No, it's not. Same with the Void Forge. Same with like something like the Interrogation Jewel that is perfectly suited for Void Forge, since it alternates between the elements, and then you can inflict Scorch, Brittle, and Sap instead of like Freeze, Shock, Ignite, right? So there is going to be a lot of like synergies within the build, and none of that is really necessary. I think this one is necessary early on, and once you get the gloves with life regen, then your rage is fine, and everything that comes afterwards doesn't matter if it's your you know, your Forbidden Flame Flash combination, if it's like Dissolution of the Flesh with Petrified Blood later on, or your Grand Spectrums and all that kind of that. I think all of these things will make the build even better, but none of them is actually really needed. So that's why I think it might be perfectly suited or playable as a League starter version, right? And yeah, I'm looking like really forward to this kind of like project. I'm currently working on some early trees. As I said before, I'm not the biggest fan of League starter PUBs because they will only be valid for the first like 2 or 3 days of the league. What if you find like early on like a good item that you can sell for like 10 divines, and all of a sudden you can screw your entire league starter POB because all of a sudden your build is not a league starter anymore because you invested like 10 divines already, right? So that's why I don't really bother with it. I still want to make an update video about like some early leveling trees and maybe like the skills that I plan to use. Are they gonna be the undisputed best skills or the best way to level? Probably. I don't know. I don't really care about that. All I need to know is, will it get me through the eggs? Will it get me through the white and yellow tier maps to be able to farm certain currency to make this build the way I want to, and then start grinding currency and upgrade. So as I said, gonna give you guys an update on that with some early tree leveling, but it's not gonna be like racer kind of league start PUBs where everything is explained 100%, right? But yeah, this is like my decision. Super hyped, cannot wait. It's still like 4 days until league start, and yeah, all we do is can just wait and see and get hyped and more hyped until we are there, I guess. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.